Hello and welcome to the Food Co-op Initiative video, Vision Process, a deeper dive on the Vision Cornerstone of the 4-in-3 development model. This is the second video in a series of 3. A little bit about Food Co-op Initiative and what we do. We are currently, as a small nonprofit, nationally serving over 120 communities from Sitka, Alaska to Boston, Massachusetts that are working to start their own food co-ops in their communities. We have helped over 80 communities actually open the doors to their co-ops in our 10 years of existence. We exist to support startup food co-ops at all stages of development, whether you're having your first thoughts about the possibility of starting a food co-op or you're about to open your doors. We can be of help. Call us anytime. Our number and our email are there on the screen. And think about signing up for our mailing list and take a look at our extensive resources. You can find both at our website, www.foodcoopinitiative.coop. All of our resources on our website are free. We want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, the USDA, the National Cooperative Bank, National Cooperative Grocers, the Cooperative Fund, the Cooperative Fund of New England, and dozens of mature food co-ops all over the US. They make this video and all the work we do nationally to support startup food co-ops possible. Thank you. So let's get on to our topic for today. I'm Jacqueline Hanna, the Assistant Director at Food Co-op Initiative, and I'll be leading you through our second video on vision. This is the vision process, getting the community input you need to build a vital vision. First, we're going to step back for just a minute. Make sure before you dive into these videos that you know what the 4-in-3 model is. It's a development model created by from best practices that we have built from working with startup food co-ops for a decade that will help you with the steps of opening your co-op. We have 2 video introductions to the 4-in-3 model that are available to you for free. You can find them on YouTube, 4 Cornerstones in 3 Stages, Part 1 and Part 2. To the left of your screen, you see the model. This is a visual representation of the 4-in-3 model. We'll be focusing today in that upper left corner on one of the 4 cornerstones, vision. So the vision cornerstone, get to know it a little bit more too before you dive into this vision series. So the basic idea is one of the 4 cornerstones is vision, the articulation of the hopes and dreams of your co-op community. It takes a lot of forms. It's broad, long-term, and inspiring, but specific and local. And it is refined as the co-op emerges and moves through the development stages. To learn more about this specific cornerstone in the 4-in-3 process, take a look at Creating Vision. This is at the CDS Consulting Co-op Library and was created by our Executive Director, Stuart Reed, and Bill Gessner of CDS Consulting Co-op. You can see the address for that video there on the screen. Take a look at that before you dive into these more in-depth, detailed individual videos on the parts of the vision process. All right, so you've watched the first vision video in our series. You know that the next thing we need to do is the vision of your co-op must do a great job of reflecting your community's needs and wants to inspire and succeed. So how do we make sure it does that? The number one most important thing to a vital vision that is going to attract people to your co-op, bring in enthusiastic volunteers, bring in owners, bring in investment, and get you successfully to that day that you open the doors is really reflecting the voice of your community through your vision. And we do this through input from key stakeholders. So to get this input effectively, we're going to need a process. That process is going to look a little different in stage 1 development from stage 2 development. Which stage of development is your co-op in? Again, go back and review that 4 cornerstones in 3 stages. Those videos will discuss that. But if you're in those early stages of developing your co-op, You are in stage 1, and most likely if you are incorporated, you have a board of directors, you've had your first elections, and are selling shares of your co-op, you are into stage 2 development. So who do we want input from in creating our vision? Well, it depends on our stage. In stage 1, the most important key input comes from your core organizing team. We're going to dive into a little more of who that is, but you also want secondary input from community surveys, community meetings, and key stakeholder conversations. In stage 2, the key input comes from the co-op's owners or members, if you use that term. Where's the secondary input come from? There is none. What? We'll talk about that in a minute. So in stage 1, the key input comes from the core organizing team. The core organizing team can be comprised of your steering committee or appointed board, depending which part of stage 1 you're in. Your core volunteers, people who consistently volunteer, show up at meetings, who have been very invested in the co-op so far, and committee members. If you have subcommittees of your steering committee or appointed board who are not on the steering committee or board, but again are involved in a significant way in the development of the co-op, they are part of your core organizing team. The core organizing team will also collect input from key stakeholder conversations, a community survey, and community meetings. You want to do these things before you go through a vision process. Key stakeholder conversations means sitting down and having conversations with local farms, other local businesses, maybe some officials from your local city, but people who are movers and shakers in your community and/or people who will play a significant role in the co-op, like your farmers and producers. You don't have to talk to every single one of them, but the idea is to sit down and over coffee and spend a little time getting their thoughts on the role the co-op could play in the community, what the co-op might look like and how it could serve and how it could integrate into the community to help farms, to help the economy, and what they hope it might accomplish. We also would suggest a community survey in stage 1 development. We have a model for that. If you would like to look at ours, it's on our website. And if you can't find it, just give us a shout out and we will help you locate that. But usually a survey is conducted of the broader community somewhere in stage 1, where we gauge the interest of the community around us in the idea of a cooperative grocery store and get some feedback. And then most startups early in stage 1 have had 1 or 2 main the idea of a food co-op and gather input and find out if there's interest. All of these, the key stakeholder conversation, the community survey, and community meeting or meetings will be used to gather information that the core organizing team will use in the vision process. So who sets the vision in stage 1? The steering committee or appointed board with the core organizing team's input. How is this tested? How do we know if the vision actually represents all of those secondary stakeholders and input and all that secondary input and what the community really wants and will connect with? Well, we find out through selling ownership shares. Can this vision attract owners, volunteers, and enthusiasm? That's the test. In stage 2, who we gather input from and who builds the vision is a little different. We gather the input from the co-op's owners and only the co-op's owners. Why? Well, in stage 1, your organizing team has already taken input from the broader community and developed a vision that gives kind of a reflection of that broader community's input, concerns, ideas, and hopes. But by stage 2, you have a democratically elected board and hopefully hundreds of owners, and the co-op is owned by them and exists to serve them and their vision. So we take that original vision and we get input from our co-op owners in stage 2 to revise, to test, and to freshen up that vision and make sure that it really reflects what the people who are being attracted to and investing in our co-op care about, that it's exciting and that it speaks to them. Of course, we want the input of farmer producers, local business owners, and co-op community organizations on our vision, but they hopefully at this point, the ones who really care about the co-op, have joined the co-op and get to participate as co-op owners. So what can the process look like? Well, first off, let's talk about voices. In the first, we gather the voices. We get input from those who will not be at the Vision Input event. Second, we share those voices. At the Vision Input session itself, we read and represent those voices that are not actually present in the room, but are significant parts of the input process. So in stage one, again, those key conversations you've had, those community meeting voices, and in stage two, owners who actually can't be at the event. And then third, we can join those voices together. Through a vision activity, you'll have those present represent the non-present voices alongside their own voices. So in gathering the voices, I want to first speak for just a moment about why this is important. Why gather the voices? Again, we want to represent everyone in our community as broadly as possible and have those voices involved. So this call reflects their vision in a way that is scintillating and exciting to a broad swath of those we hope to serve. So we want to get those voices present. The other reason, though, is that we're a cooperative. A cooperative is about people having a voice. So we want to make sure that the voices that show up at events aren't the only ones represented, because those who have the time and energy and passion to come to events are usually a small portion of your actual full ownership base or full community. And so those voices get amplified, and we have other voices that might wish to be at the meeting but can't because they work two jobs or go to school or whatever their reason. Those voices don't end up getting represented at that in-person process. We want to do an in-person process because it's exciting, it's dynamic, some amazing things happen, but we also want to represent those voices that can't be there. So in stage one, you get those voices who aren't going to be at the Vision Input meeting from conducting key stakeholder conversations, from conducting a community survey, and from holding a community meeting or two or three. In stage two, you'll announce a date and description of your co-op's Vision Input event to your owners, talking about why you're doing it and what will be done with the information gathered there. And then have a survey out before that input meeting for owners who cannot be present to share their thoughts with the same key questions that will be asked at the meeting. Once we've gathered the voices, we want to share the voices. In stage one, that'll look like creating a summary of each of the secondary input groups' thoughts. So not everyone will be present at those key stakeholder conversations that you'll have, but those who have been from the steering committee or board will put together something short, or some short document, kind of reflecting overall the types of feedback they heard from different parties. You will also look at the results of the survey and maybe put together the community survey and put together just a short synopsis of the results that might have an impact on the mission. And again, if you've had a community meeting, same thing, a short synopsis of input that was gathered from those meetings. You will share this input at the Vision Input event, or you can hand it out as homework and pre-reading. Because remember, for your stage one vision creation, you're working with your core organizing team who are committed and involved. So they might read it beforehand and come ready to work, but make sure that you have some kind of synopsis of those voices there at the meeting to be looked at or read, either up on the wall or handed out in a packet so people can refer back to it. To share the voices in a stage two process, put the input of owners not present on sheets, just lay them out, but with no names. Make sure it's anonymous. And distribute the non-present input evenly among the attendee groups. So we'll talk about attendee groups in the stage two process, but the idea is not for every owner to have read the input of every owner who's not there, but they'll actually get a portion of that feedback from those who are not there that they're going to be aware of and integrate into the feedback process. So we've gathered the voices, we've shared the voices, now we join the voices. In both stage one and two, the Vision Input process participants are charged to keep in mind the secondary input voices throughout the visioning activities. Toward the end of the Vision Input session, you will ask participants to once again briefly review the input from those other stakeholders who aren't present and make sure that it is represented in the results of the input session. So we've gotten our voices together in a broad and cooperative way. So now running the process of the actual visioning input event. So no matter if it's stage 1 or stage 2, set a date for your vision input process and make sure that we can get it out there early so we get lots of attendees, that we have a site, gather everybody up in person, probably have food present, of course, and then bring the big paper and the markers. We're ready to go. So in stage 1, the question for this input process is, what problems and or needs do we dream of our co-op addressing for our community? That's the question. And that's how we suggest you phrase it. You can reshape it a little bit as you like. So we're going to put up large pieces of paper, and we're going to have one person taking notes, and we're going to ask them as a private individual, as not as a member of the steering committee or the board member, but thinking as a private individual who got involved in the co-op because you're excited and passionate. What problem or need did you think the co-op was going to address? What motivated you to show up and get involved? Have them share as many, and go around the circle and ask each person to share. They can pass if they don't have an idea right now, and just keep going until no one has anything that isn't already up on the board. And in front of everyone, so everyone can see all the answers and build on them, list out everyone's responses for what problem or need of the community that they dream the co-op will meet. And give them some examples. You know, helping support local farms, food education for children, everything to creating jobs in the community. Let their minds run wild, but we're looking to talk about what problem or need we will solve, not we will have a fresh meat department. So everyone gets a chance to speak, go around the circle, get those ideas up there, and keep going till there aren't any new ones to put up on the wall. Then we've got all those brilliant ideas and passionate answers for what is our co-op here to solve or make possible or need to be met. Now we narrow. All participants get 3 and only 3 stickers or dots. So you can get those little round colored dot stickers if you want, and I often do, just give them a marker and say they can put 3 dots up there. But give everyone 5 minutes to look at that entire list of problems and needs that could be met through the co-op, and allow them to only put their dots next to 3 answers that they feel the most strongly about. Most people will try and wiggle out of this and say, but they're all important to me. But it's really key that people say that they really choose the ones that they're most passionate about. We know you love everything, all those ideas that are up on the wall. But what are the 3 that are just core to why you think the co-op will do so much for your community? Then, organizing. We're going to identify the answers that had the most dots. So sometimes that's super obvious. Some groups, there are 2, 3, 4 answers that were up on the wall that are just covered in dots. And sometimes those dots are very evenly distributed. It's different for every group, but see if you can see that if there's a clear pattern of which ideas are the ones that really rose to the top of everyone's passion. Whether they can or cannot be, you still want to do this next thing, which is, can some of the answers be combined into one? Are there themes? Sometimes we'll see things like make local food accessible 7 days a week, rather than just at the farmer's market, and increase availability of local farm foods and supporting local farms. So they're slightly different phrases, but they're similar. Combine those ideas. So draw little connecting lines as a group, look at all the answers up there, say which of these are similar, and then recount the dots and see if you've got some constellations of passion and excitement among those ideas. Solidify your top 2 to 4 answers on the problem or need the co-op can address for your community. Now, real quick, remember that secondary input. Go back to the original answers list, the one where you guys put every single possible problem we could solve through the co-op, or we might dream of solving through the co-op, or the need we might meet on the wall, and give out 3 more stickers of a different color or different colored markers, and ask the participants to now represent the voice of the secondary input. This is where they might want to review the notes from your key stakeholders meetings, take a quick look at some of the input from the community survey, and then do the exercise again. Tell them now you're wearing your hat of community input. And take those 3 stickers from what you've read, from what you've heard, and it doesn't have to be a scientific study of every note that was from those input sessions, but it can be just from what you've heard, from the information here. What do you think are the 3 most important things on this list of problems we could solve to the broader community? And put those stickers up there. Are there different patterns now? Look at the 2 colors. Our personal passions, are they aligning with the community's passions, or are we hearing something slightly different? So we're going to take all this input and these great conversations we just had, and we're going to process it into vision. How do we do this? Not as one giant group in a room. Trust me, you've already probably spent an hour and a half together sharing your ideas, boiling them down, thinking about the community inputs, boiling down their ideas. Now you've got all this great raw input. You're going to select a subcommittee, this could be 1 to 3 people, to boil down the input gathered on that day, and the input day, into a draft mission and core values. Wait, what are mission and core values again? Go back to my first video, the one before this in the vision series, and look at components of vision, where I clearly outline what the mission is versus the core values. From the type of input you got about problems that the co-op can solve, you should be able to easily draft a mission, because that's really the question of the mission, and probably draft out the core values, how you're going to accomplish those things, what form people would like that to take from that information. Set a date for this to be brought back to the steering committee or board and to be discussed and finalized. So this stage 1 process is really done all internally by that core organizing team. Why? Because at this point, you don't have a broad ownership base to be representing. You don't have their voices there yet. You may have a few owners. You might be up to maybe even 100 when you do this. Or you might have no owners yet. All you have are the core passionate people who are going to move forward this process and the conversations they've had with the community. You are the ones setting the vision, hopefully one that really represents the community well, but it's also your specific passions that's going to attract more and more owners into the co-op. So we're ready for that second visioning process in stage 2. So in stage 2, a lot of things stay the same. So why are we revisiting vision? Remember, in stage 1, we're setting a vision, a mission, and core values so we can talk about what the co-op is going to do for the community clearly and succinctly, and hopefully in a way that really excites the community and attracts them to volunteer, buy an ownership share in your co-op, and get involved. But by the time you get well into stage 2, this usually happens in late stage 2A, occasionally all the way into stage 2B, you are up to hundreds of owners, 400 owners, 500 owners, and you realize that you need to kind of recheck vision. Is our vision still resonating with our owners and the broader community? There's now hundreds of more people involved from your community in a very direct way. So we go back and we recheck the vision with our owners. You may find it completely affirms what you already had. This vision process is like, we already had it. But then you know that it's affirmed and the owners are excited once again about the vision. Or you may find, and usually this is the case, that it needs to shift a bit. Your owners were attracted maybe to 2/3 of what you outlined in the core values and mission, and weren't so much into 1/3 of it that you core organizers were, but they've also added another component. We've seen groups that were like, we really want to be a co-op that provides food education and models sustainability to the community and supports local farms. Well, it turns out the education piece and the local farms really excited people. The board didn't know that though, but that's why everyone was pouring in as owners. But that sustainability, maybe we'll have solar panels piece, maybe didn't resonate in their community, but they didn't know that. So we go back and we vision with the owners, we find out, yeah, they like that, but they're not on fire about that. It turns out what they'd like to talk about more is local farms and food education and being a community space where people connect and have a sense of community. And that's how they see their co-op, slightly different than the original core organizing team. This is a great thing to find out because you can retool your vision, your core values, and your mission to speak even better to your community and attract more owners and actually re-energize a co-op effort. So this happens in stage 2. The question is still the same. What problems, needs do we dream of our co-op addressing for our community? What would that look like? Break everybody who shows up for the physical input process into groups. Now remember, you've already sent out the dates and the location for this event and a survey with this question to owners and let them know that if they cannot arrive at this event, that they can list for you 3 to 5 answers to this question. You put out just a digital survey that they can fill out and send in, and that their answers will be considered. Remember, we're going to break people into groups. So we want to have no more than 4 groups, but let's say you have 20 attendees, 40 attendees, just break them into 4 about even groups to work together through this question, and also hand them about a quarter of the feedback. Remember, anonymously printed on sheets of paper, feedback from owners who are not present. Hand them that feedback through and consider it part of their group's process to involve those voices. In these groups they've broken into, they will share the question. They will each take their large sheets of paper and they will collect their answers just in the same process that the core organizing team did in stage 1. Next, each of those individual 4 groups will run the narrowing process on their own. So you will just tell them, okay, we've done collecting all the ideas. Now you're going to do the stickers process. You're going to give them their little dots. You're going to have them talk about, are there patterns and themes? Can we combine some of these and then recount the stickers and figure out which their top 2 to 3, maybe 4, but hopefully 2 to 3 ideas are about why the co-op exists and what it's going to do for the community. Each group runs that organizing process on their own of reorganizing and looking at the ideas, and then gather all the groups together when they've done these 2 processes. You've given them like 10 minutes to do each of these processes. Gather them all together, and each group reads out the results to the larger group. To wrap it up, you'll review the not present voices again. Remember, they all have their sheets of the owners who weren't there and their input. Did those things get captured in the results? Now, our goal isn't to capture every idea. You know, if one person writes in, I really believe that the co-op should have again, let's go back to our fresh local meat case to build a local meat farming economy that allows more farmers to go into local meat processing. Wow, that's an exciting and big vision, but it probably isn't actually reflected in too many other people's, and it doesn't necessarily get into the final cut. Just like not all of your ideas, when you do the process as a core organizing group, will get into the final cut. But are the majority of the ideas and visions that were represented from that owner input that was given ahead of time in the survey, is it reflected? Did we miss anything? Just take a look together as a large group. And then compare the 4 groups' final core ideas. Are there themes between the groups? Similar answers that you guys came to? What are the big takeaways? Is there one that really stands out that no one else came up with, but everyone thinks sounds very exciting? Or do you see the lines of attachment through all the ideas and it's starting to coalesce into something that could make a mission and vision in a clear, concise way? To wrap up, this input that was built by your owners, present and not present, is entrusted to the democratically elected board to use as the basis of crafting a mission and core values and reviewing your current ones. So you may first just review your current mission and core values based on the input. Hold them together and see, are there really passionate things in this input that aren't reflected in the mission and core values? Or is all of it reflected, but maybe in slightly different language? Or do we just need to tweak the language of our current mission and core values to reflect that? Or have we actually seen a whole piece of the core values or mission from stage 1 leave and not be part of really the owner's vision, and or a new piece that really is passionately reflected in the owner's input that needs to be added? The board will commit to a date or month, doesn't have to be an exact date, that they will have a final version out to the owners of what they've come up with. They've reviewed the mission and core values with your input. We have changed it in these ways. And a little bit of information to them about the input process. Remember, keep reflecting back to them how important their voices are and the cooperative process. We gathered owner voices this way. We heard this from your input. We integrated it here, here, and here in your core mission, your core values and mission. So that is about the input process. Now, of course, you've got all this raw data, and we need to take the input and actually write it into a vision. I was going to jump directly to putting your vision to work as our next video, but as I was formulating this information for this video, I shared it with a couple startups, and they said, we really need a piece on how to take that input and turn it actually into that mission, core values, and vision. So I'm going to do a short piece on that. We're going to visit how do you take all this great community input and turn it so raw and turn it into an actual concise vision. We're going to have that video out November 11th. And then so that's the one I've added. That's actually the 4th vision video. And then the last one is going to be putting your vision to work. Once you've got this great mission, core values, and vision that really reflects the passion of your community, what do you do with it? Does it just sit on your website? That's not what we want it to happen. It can actually be the rocket fuel that really pushes forward your co-op's development if you know how to put it to work. So we're going to visit that, and that video will be out December 2nd. I want to thank you all for watching again. My name is Jacqueline Hanna. I am the Assistant Director at Food Co-op Initiative. We love questions. If this material has brought up any questions for you or anything we can help with, please contact us. We've got our phone number there on the screen, or info@fci.coop. That's info@fci.coop. Thanks so much for watching.